Welcome to From the Ashes, the Dungeon Crawler Network podcast, all about Ashes of Creation by Intrepid Studios. Bear witness to the rebirth of the MMORPG genre from the ashes of an industry that has left the gamers behind. I'm your host, Aggelos, founder of the Dungeon Crawler Network, and we are coming to you live from the Mighty Beard Tavern. And I am joined by my amazing co-host and partners in crime. We got Stormslord. How are you?
Awesome this week. How about you?
I'm doing great this week. It's an exciting week, I think. We got a lot of stuff to go into, but first I have to announce Alpha Soul.
Great to be here.
And of course, Crowjack.
I have nothing to add to this conversation for once.
It is a little odd. He kind of took me aback, I guess. Little strange not having a Crowjack with an opinion, so I'm a little freaked out
Fine,
here.
Fine. Opinions. Start pulling opinions out of nowhere. I got nothing.
Opinion.
Opinion.
Anyway,
No, you're wrong.
No, you're all wrong.
Whatever it is you stand for, you're wrong.
Whatever. We've got a fun show this week. We got a lot of stuff to cover. We may not even have enough time to take care of everything this week, so we're going to go through as much as we can, and we'll probably end up salvaging some stuff for next week. But first off, we do have a new blog post, so Intrepid Studios kind of held up to their word about their pledge to release new information. I know March was nodes.
I was just going to say,
Nodes. The Castle Siege stuff did have some node information, which was fascinating. We're going to dig into that first, and then we're going to jump into our, I don't know, what is it? The Back to the Future car? We're going to go back in time a little bit to cover a few Q&As that were held on the Discord from a few weeks ago. Actually, it's not even a few weeks ago. It might be 2 weeks ago as I look. Almost 2 weeks ago for the one, and the other ones are more recent. So we're going to dive into those because there was some interesting information about pet systems, as well as some clarification from a very angry community after a specific letter was released.
I don't think very angry is like enough to truly describe that Discord and the people. Like, you need stronger words than that.
Vitriol was a good word that comes to mind.
Furious.
Yes. And I got to give, I actually hopped into the voice chat afterwards, and we actually had one of our guildmates recorded it so that we could hear it afterwards. And I don't know. I'll just say that got to give props to Steven for one thing. He actually stood there and took it.
I was going to say the same thing. After hearing it, it's one thing to see it summarized because there's summaries on it, and it's another thing to just hear it. And I'm kind of amazed that he was able to keep his calm and still stick around, and then still go to and do the live stream. So that does deserve props.
Yeah.
Like a boxer out of his weight class, staying in the ring, taking every single blow, and then just going round for round for round. That was Steven.
It was. I was
the entire
impressed.
podcast last week. He was in that voice chat. The length of our podcast. At the end of the podcast, I said he's still in that voice chat.
And post show. Yeah. It didn't end till a few minutes. Like, our post show was almost over when it ended. Mm-hmm. It was a long Q&A, but there was some good information in there and some surprises, which I kind of want to dive into. And of course, we had some information about the March 8th Jedi stream. I mean, live stream.
I, for one, look forward to being a Jedi Master.
Indeed. Okay. I don't even know. All right. Before we jump into the news, of course, I got to give a shout out to all of our awesome Patreon and Twitch subs. You guys are great. You guys help keep the metaphorical torches lit and us doing these shows each and every week. And we have 2 new patrons this week. It's Chobo. I like Chobo. And Phenomex. I hope I pronounced them correctly, but I did my best. Those are our 2 new patrons over at patreon.com/Dungeon Crawler Network. You guys are great. Thank you so much for that. We also, and actually, we got 3 new 5-star reviews. Awesome. I'm going to say something here. Okay? this is something that I just thought of doing a few minutes ago. We had a challenge to get to 100 5-star reviews by the end of this year. I'm going to up the ante. If we can get to 100 5-star reviews by the time we reach episode 100,
He'll buy us all pizza.
I'm going to do something.
Okay.
Not getting you guys pizza, unfortunately. Sorry. If we can get to 100, I will buy an expeditionary pre-order pack and give it away. If we get to 150, I'll buy a Voyager. And if we get to 200, I'll buy a Voyager Plus and give it away.
Cool.
Big monies.
That is by the time we reach episode 100. We're on 86. We got like 14 weeks left.
Somebody with knowledge in bots, write a bot to make lots of accounts and just they have to be legit, right? You can't just have like random names and stuff. It's got to sound legit.
Jed Bushler.
Yes, please. Names like that.
So that is the case. You have quite a while at this point, at least another 14 weeks. But if we can get above like 200 or above, we'll do one of those packs each time. So there you go. All right, just gonna up the ante a little bit.
I have a funny feeling you're going to be doing that.
I have
a
a
funny
feeling I probably will too. Anyway, all right, now that that's out of the way. Oh, and just so you know, it will be open to everyone regardless of who leaves it. You know, I can't tell who left reviews.
Patrons only. Patrons only. Get in Patreon. Paywall, paywall, paywall.
Paywall. We're not some MMO company. No, we don't do that. Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and dive right on in to the first bit of news. 10 facts about castle sieges in, and I like this part, in the MMORPG. They made sure that was something that they focused on.
I hope so.
I would hope so as well. I mean, it was that's the common trend that people are like, we're tired of hearing about the apocalypse. I don't even want to say BR anymore. I'm going to say apocalypse, the
whole
spinoff. And looking
because
at
even the castle siege in Apocalypse is going to be a fun little distraction, but that's it.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to put up some images in the background. So if you're watching us either live on twitch.tv/Dungeon Crawler Network or later on YouTube, you'll be able to see these. But if you are listening on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, Spotify, anywhere that you get your RSS feeds, there will be a link in the description below. You'll be able to see these images in the blog post. And I got to say, even though they're environmental, they are pretty. There we go. Before we dive into this, I want to also give another shout out to Redditor _ZII_ for noticing that the runic letters in the Dwarven Castle actually are translated to Intrepid Studios.
Which is hilarious.
Very nice. Great detail.
It is.
I wonder, will the developers want to develop one day their own Dwarven language and Dwarven runes and Dwarven alphabet as opposed to using pre-existing Earth ones? I wonder if down the road they want to do that. I mean, right now it's not a huge priority. Curious.
I'm wary of that, and let me just explain. Almost nobody has satisfactory created a mythological language to go along with their game, because even if you know, way back, World of Warcraft in the early days had the different languages.
Yeah.
It didn't. It just made up words based on how many characters you had.
Yeah.
So the same 8-letter word would always be the same thing when translated into whatever other language it had. And
Yeah, was Tolkien the last artist to create entire languages
I think
properly, to a successful degree?
yes,
I can't think of anyone else.
I will say this, though. For those who don't know, I love Tolkien and I love everything about him. He was actually a linguist. That was
That's why.
actually his
Wow,
real life
interesting.
job.
It was The study of languages, he understood how not just English, but all languages were structured, and because of that knowledge, was able to create his own with structure.
Yep.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was a linguist at Oxford, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
We
actually
need to hire a linguist.
we need to hire a
linguist
linguist.
a team of linguists.
It's impressive because both of those. Well, actually, I should take that back. It's not fantasy, but Klingon actually, I think it can be.
Yeah.
It has all these sentence structures required to actually be a full language. But there's not a lot of fantasy languages that are actually a full language besides all of Tolkien's, which he made like 8 of them. Like, no kidding. There's like 8 different languages. There's not just Elvish and Dwarven. There's like 4 Dwarven languages, the Black Tongue, 6 variations of Elvish. It's pretty crazy. It's insanely crazy. Anyway, back to the blog post. 10 facts about castle sieges. First one, massive battles. Castle sieges are intended to be massive events with hundreds of players involved in a single siege. Okay, one of the reasons that Ashes of Creation Apocalypse exist is so we can address the challenges in ramping up the number of bodies that we can handle simultaneously. With our latest test hitting over 200 simultaneous players, we're ready to push that number even further. Our goal is to have the largest organized PvP battles in any MMORPG. I wanted to sit here and focus on this. I like that they said that, but that's a tall order to fill.
I was
They
thinking the
can pull it off.
exact same thing.
They can pull it off, guys. At 3 frames a second. They can pull it off.
Well,
What
yeah,
are we,
yeah.
EVE
2,000
Online?
people, 3 frames a second. Let's go.
Yeah, that's what I was actually thinking. EVE Online.
Yeah.
I think they hold the belt right now.
You can't beat EVE, but they don't. They also have that time dilation, which wouldn't work in a first person kind of game.
Yeah.
You couldn't literally swing at 1/100th of your normal speed like you can in the time dilated version. But games like Camelot Unchained, who's been redoing their entire engine from ground up, the last time they did one with alpha, they had alpha testers, beta testers, and bots, like bot machines running stuff, and they got over 5,000 people on screen.
It's possible.
I don't see how Unreal is going to be able to handle that.
That was my question, but I lack the technical knowledge to give you an answer to that. What
Well,
is
you have to look at
Unreal
the
capable?
bots. You have to look at the bots and see what are they really, truly representative of a person.
No, they're
Are
not
they in the same
100%
net-
representative of a person.
Right? Are they in the same network structure? There's a whole bunch of stuff that would be different if you're a person out there than if you're a bot.
I will say with the bots, they do represent a person. They were using Amazon's bot technology in order to do it. So the bot was a virtual PC connected in. It acts the same way as a player does, but it
All
probably
right, so
doesn't
they
do
did
all
that.
the same thing as a player. It ran a script where it ran around in a circle probably.
Right. Interesting.
But
Very
still,
interesting.
that is still an impressive feat to
Oh, it
have
is.
5,000 unique connections into your server, and running around the server didn't literally crucify itself.
Now, Ashes isn't going to need that kind of overhead because their servers are 10,000 max. And I highly doubt half of an active server is going to be at one location at
Right.
one time.
I beg to differ.
You think there's a Metropolis siege going down that is just going to be... Because you're right, it's announced like a week in advance. Everyone knows the time and date.
It's supposed to take months. The amount of time it takes to level up a node is supposed to be the amount of time it takes to prepare for a siege. So if a siege does happen, I'm sorry, if a once every 6-month event happens, I'm going, even if it's a slideshow.
Yeah. Make sure you guys, when you get this game in your hands in 2038, you choose a small server with a small population, because if a major event like a Metropolis siege occurs, everyone and their mother is going to be trying to log into the server at that time. So don't necessarily choose the high pop servers. Try and choose some of the low pop servers. Or you'll be in queue. Just thinking ahead.
Don't ever log off. That entire week,
Don't log off.
just stay logged in.
It's just AFK circles.
That's right.
You know what? Let's wait till we get to it.
Yeah, that's so far down the road. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I'm not convinced that we need 200 players, but because there's another section that we're going to touch on that's every class matters.
Okay.
And there's some wording in there that leads me to believe that there's potentially going to be a cap on how many people you can bring.
Okay.
let's get to that.
Yeah, okay, we're going to get to that, but remind me, Crowjack, I'm looking at you, even though it doesn't look like it.
King memory, yep.
Remember how when we brought up Castle Sieges before and I said instanced?
You mentioned that? That was part of, that was, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's hold on to that.
I'm actually of that. Well, yeah, hold on to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We're going up.
I'm of that mind.
So I am curious. We'll finish up the massive battles. This is the one thing they're showing us the 10 points for Castle Sieges. I do think Castle Sieges will be big. I just don't think the idea. I mean, I guess you can get away with the fact that they say the largest tactical, because you can fudge those. That's a PR speak. You can fudge that going, well, Eve is a Zerg, or Camelot Unchained is a Zerg. So we limit our numbers. I mean, Guild Wars 2 tried to pull that too. I like that they have goals. I just think they have a very, very, very far way to go compared to some of these other games that were built from the ground up to be these massive things. Discounting Eve, we will discount Eve just because they have to slow their entire server down and all the lights in Iceland on every house flicker because it's drawing every bit of power to power that server. Excluding that, I think Camelot and Chain's going to have an issue. Going past that, Dark Age of Camelot, back in 2001, Relic raids were 500-700 people. And that was 2001.
Jeez. That's crazy.
They have a tall order if they're looking to get bigger than that. Tactics and strategy matter. For every play, there should be counterplay. We often see Castle Sieges turn into Zergfest, which really doesn't capture the epic, back-and-forth battles we wish to see in Ashes of Creation. One of our key pillars is that choice matters and that it applies to tactics and strategy as well. A well-formulated battle plan should win out over stat sheets and bodies. Zergs will generally be difficult to pull off and will be eminently counterable through siege weapons, traps, and battlefield tricks.
That's the developers saying, please don't do Zergs. Our servers can't handle it, so we'll encourage you to have smaller knit groups so the numbers go down.
Let's talk about this. I know that's a lot of PR speak, and I like to put my sexy Barry White voice on place for that, but that doesn't say a whole lot other than that they want to, I don't know. Capture points are something that I'm curious how they work. If splitting up for capture points would actually be more beneficial than not, especially when the MMO, not talking APOC, because we know whenever you hold a capture point, it increases or decreases your spawn time. There's a reason for that. But in a castle siege, what's to prevent or what's to even make anything tactical, really?
Man, all my experiences in open world, massive PvP shows me that Zergs win every time. Every time. I have yet to find an example where they don't. If they succeed, phenomenal. But history shows me that Zergs win.
Can I throw a few things out here? Just
Sure.
Zergs generally win. They do. But there have been a few cases where there were tactics in place that were anti-Zerg tactics.
Torin Mill, Horde. What?
I was thinking more recent ones. Guild Wars 2 and the...
the area effect thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you go and visit the Mesmer Bomb, which is literally... They put a portal down. This wasn't anti-Zerg. This was Zerg versus Zerg. Essentially what they did was you would have a Mesmer, put a portal down, your entire raid, your Zerg raid would stand on top of the portal. It's essentially Wraith gameplay for you Apex Legends player. The Wraith would run out, drop the portal, And then the Zerg would go through the portal, and before they even rendered in, they would just sit there and spam every AoE that they had to AoE down the other Zerg, because the Mesmer would run in the middle of the Zerg, pop it down, almost immediately die, but the portal was there, and then the entire Zerg popped through the portal.
So Mesmers are kamikaze nuke pilots.
More or less.
They've got this nuke behind them, and they're going into kamikaze, and they drop the nuke right there. Like, what kind of compelling...
That's what people do. They're going to find their way around the anti-Zerg, whatever Intrepid puts up, because people want to win. They're going to find the way.
Yeah.
If they can throw more bodies at the problem, they will.
They'll figure it out.
And at the end of the day, a body in most games is more useful than
Think about this.
another
All
tactic.
the bodies have collision.
Right. They do, everything
So
does have
you-
collision in this game.
Changes a lot.
Okay,
Changes a
so
lot.
Remember we talked about servers and being bogged down by the number of players. So how many, like, having the server check collision detection and check spell collision detection of that many people in that kind of a space, what does that do to just for server stress and server load, that many calls to the server?
It's called
On top
pouring
of the DPS
gasoline,
As it feels
lighting
like,
a match.
on top of all the damage and healing and positioning and all that jazz, you've got collision?
There's a reason why a lot of games don't do collision.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because every then has a box, and then every corpse has a box until the corpse disappears.
Well, aside from the fact that I can just sit in a doorway and not let you get to that vendor.
Well,
That's one reason we don't like collision.
yeah, but I think, well, here's the other game. BDO has collision. It has soft collision when you're not in combat. So, like, your
Okay.
character will literally bump into another character and be somewhat slowed down, but it won't
go.
stop you. But it's a neat thing. Like, you will literally be running up to someone and hit them, and you'll be like, whack, get knocked over. But
That's cool.
yeah, and I have a feeling that's what they're planning on doing here is a soft collision when not in combat. So someone can't, sit in front of the doorway and play bouncer and don't let you into your bank.
Unless, for roleplay reasons, I'm not letting you into my tavern on my freehold with collision detection.
Yeah,
You're not allowed in until you pay the fee.
I like that.
Give it to us, Steven.
The other example that I have that was a true anti-Zerg. Anyone remember, Storms, you may remember this. It was Magicka Detonation combined with, what was the name of that set in ESO? Something Death?
Oh, yeah, I can't understand. Yeah, it exploded around everybody. Exploded, right?
Essentially what this
Up to
was.
12 people exploded.
Yeah. What this was a set that when somebody died, when you killed someone, their body exploded.
Corpse explosion type of ability.
Essentially. But it was so neat because
Chain
what you would have stealthers do, Magicka stealthers, they would be hiding, waiting for Zerg to go through, target the weakest person they could find, whoever looked like they were the weakest person, run up in stealth, and they had an ability called Magicka Detonation. You activate it, and then it beeped around you for a few seconds, and then emanated. It was a point-blank area of effect around your body. They would stealth into the center of the Zerg, right next to the weak player, blow up. That damage would oftentimes... Vicious death, thank you,
Vicious,
chat room.
yeah, that's it.
It
Yeah,
would blow up and
absolutely.
kill that person, who would then blow up and kill more people in each body. Because the first explosion would damage everyone, often killing one person. That person would explode, doing more damage to everyone till every body blew up. I've seen entire Zerg raids be killed by one person.
And that is how you fight numbers, area of effect. But again, those server calls of that many area of effect spells going off from Zerg versus Zerg, just you can't imagine.
Well,
It's going to be a lot.
ESO is not great for when it comes to lag. The one beneficial thing about Vicious Death is it was not popular in Cyrodiil. It was popular in Imperial City, which was already a smaller form of PvP. There wasn't 300 people going back and forth. It was normally one full raid party, which was, 40 people? 8
At
groups
most.
of 5. And then against another group at most. There really wasn't a whole lot of the big battles that would take up in the keeps. Vicious Death didn't see a lot in that form of gameplay, but it did in the smaller, when you're down in the sewers, there's not a lot of room. Guess what? You're going down a corridor, you're exploding. You could, if that is the case, speaking of corridors, if they can funnel, that's the way they're going to have to do it.
Doorways are going to be interesting.
Collision and funneling in areas.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, maybe that is the case with siege weapons and traps. I mean, siege weapons were almost a joke. And again, I go back to ESO because it's one of the bigger PvP areas with castle sieges. It went back and forth from siege weapons being a joke and doing no damage to siege weapons destroying everything in their path, and then back to them being a joke on anything but walls.
Remember a conversation we had about castle sieges some podcasts ago about graveyards and respawns and how punishing that's going to be? So if they have very strong anti-Zerg mechanics, and these anti-Zerg mechanics are great AoEs or siege engines or traps that wipe out Zergs, how close are those graveyards? Are the graveyards close enough to so the Zergs go, whatever, respawn and go again? Are they far enough away to punish that? Obviously, we don't have answers for this yet, but there's lots of different ways you can tackle a castle siege's just gameplay in general to work with or against Zergs. Curious to see.
Discounting the way the battleground or apocalypse version, yeah, I'm laughing at that too. The battlegrounds apocalypse version will handle. What if tactics and strategies matter during a castle siege? What if it's one death and that's it?
Then it has to be instanced.
That would be good.
It has to be instanced. If you die, you can't go back in the instance.
I mean, that would make you think, because if someone wiped out a Zerg party with like a hot boiling oil and you lost half your party in one shot.
Do we know how spawns work yet?
No.
We know how they work in APOC.
Well, I mean, in MMO, because we're talking about APOC, right? We're talk about, is it one place? You pick one particular bed, that's your spawn point? And that could be wherever your city is? I don't know.
That's a great question.
It is.
Do they do the graveyard thing like World of Warcraft, where you just go to the nearest graveyard and respawn there? Do you go back to your bed in your home base? Do you have a portable base
sleeping bag,
you
right? You can just respawn a sleeping bag, right?
Yep.
The other way that tactics I think would really work is, and I'm going back into, my wife made me sit down and watch the Counter-Strike esport final. And she had to explain it to me because I don't play Counter-Strike, and she was telling me how it works. And I'm like, well, what's to prevent them from just running back? I'm thinking of my days playing like Quake, where you just respawn and it was just a kill fest until someone hit. And in that particular game, the way that they were doing the ladder matches is once you died, that was it for that round. So it was a 5v5 match.
5v5 single elimination. Once you're out, you're dead.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Single elimination may be a little tough, but I think if they limit deaths, especially when the castle siege for the MMO, that would really... I don't like the idea of timers. Timers are not fun mechanic.
Yeah, can you take the castle in 90 minutes? You know what I mean?
I don't think there should be a timer. I really don't. I think a castle siege should last as long as it needs. That way people have to decide. It's like, dude, are they coming? You know, like the defenders, like, should we go out and try to attack them? Should we not?
Man, if it's single elimination, like, you're going to need
or even
a
multiple
lot of
elimination,
tactics.
5 deaths per person. It's still...
I do think there has to be a timer, no matter what, because if you don't have a timer, then you just get into a situation where, okay, we're not going to attack, and we just let them sit.
Yeah,
siege.
but if the defending people go and take their thing...
No, yeah, that's right.
Because remember, it's not you just have to kill them. It's they have to still guard their home base if you...
Some people
Right,
remember
but
very fondly Alterac Valley.
Yeah.
Before the timer came into Alterac Valley. where
Right.
you literally could log out for the night, get back in the game in the morning, and be in the exact same Alterac Valley match. Some people enjoyed that gameplay.
Yeah.
Some people like to have a resolution after X number of minutes. I'm
And that
curious to
also,
see for you.
yeah, that also introduces a meta though that you'd never have anyone attack the castle. Then it's just stand outside, let them cut to us.
I see some notes about having a set number of deaths per side, so it doesn't have to be per person. It could literally be per side.
Yeah,
Like,
they each have a certain number of respawns.
yeah, that could be. I would like that
War of
more
attrition.
than not. The reason
Yeah.
why I don't want timers when it comes to this castle siege is this is a once a month thing.
Which is why I don't want the 100 deaths and they're over, right? Because you have people who run up, the 100 first people who run forward, thing's over, right?
Yeah, but if they're
Yeah.
going to do that anyway, they're stupid and we're going to win.
Well, I think it's got to be a balance of,
Yeah.
you know, I've traveled a day to get here, right? And I want to be here for a while and do something.
And-
So I don't know. I'll have to balance that out.
I mean, I could see some people talking about timers. I don't want to see a 90-minute thing. Sure, if it goes past 4 hours, 5 hours, okay. But I don't think it should be that short that people can't come up with plans.
The one thing they're testing in the Castle Siege for APOC is the respawn thing, and then when you lose a specific point, your respawns are slower or faster. I can see how that can work for the defending team, because inside your castle, inside your metropolis, inside your keep, whatever, you know where those points are, you can defend those, etc. But from the perspective of the attackers, where in that world are these points that the defenders could attack to push back the attackers? I don't know.
You make a good point because we know that the points, the attacking points in APOC are preset. But I would imagine the MMO isn't a preset thing. That would be
Especially
really
Metropolis is
disappointing if it
huge.
was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if when you start that siege, here are your 5 points. You have to place siege equipment.
Yeah, we're
on.
attacking the trade quarter, we're attacking the religious quarter, blah, 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 and we're going to get these 5 points.
I really don't like that. I mean, some of the benefits when we're playing ESO is people are attacking one wall, other people flank around the other side of the castle, start attacking the other. But if you're limited based on where you can place your points,
Your
Ah,
chat has a good point, though. How do we know who won? What's the win condition? The win condition for the attacking team is pretty simple. We successfully got to the center of this thing, took the whatever middle part of it.
The
and
relic.
yeah, we won. The relic. How do you win as a defending team if not for a timer that says we survived for X amount of time?
it could be the same thing though. They have to
Then
bring
you have to leave your walls.
a counter relic to.
No, I don't know about that one.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
about
don't know
leaving-
about that one.
having the defenders leave their walls just sounds like a trap.
I mean,
'Cause then the
that's-
attackers sit there and go, come on up, come on up.
well,
Come
here,
isn't that
relic.
how a
Let's
real
get it.
siege happens anyway?
True enough.
Come on
you know what I
out,
mean?
or you starve. Well,
That's
we're not
kinda
leaving.
That's just it, right? So
That's
one of the
true.
interesting about a castle siege is going to be, I think someone in chat pointed out, you have to plan on what you're going to bring for reserves, for repairs. You got to think all this through. If we need to have so many ballistas, how many are we going to do? Right? How many spears we're going to bring? How many?
How
what
much
are we?
ammunition? How much wood?
Yeah, you got to think of all that through because especially if it takes a long time, right? If you have 6 months or a month to plan this or whatever, you got to not only have a couple caravans to bring all your stuff, right? People trailing behind the army, you got to
Well,
bring all that with you.
This is a 1 month revolving thing. Castle
Okay.
sieges are every week. There's something else you have to do.
Yes, for the guild-controlled castles in the MMO, they are monthly rotated. Metropolises are much more random. It's basically we're going to declare war on you now. We feel like attacking you now. Here's some head warning. But you're right. The castle siege portion is a monthly rotation thing. In the MMO.
Interesting.
Managing a castle is a full-time job. Who's up for that? No? All right.
I have a job. I don't want another one.
I know.
No.
Should you be deft enough to take a castle, you'll now be responsible for managing it. Castles will have their own nodes associated with them. See, that's the tie back to the nodes from March. And developed and defending these nodes will determine the state of your castle during the next siege. Hence that every week a different node comes under siege and you have to prepare and or attack it. Defending these nodes will determine the state of the castle during the next siege. If you've done a good job managing your kingdom, then you'll have more and better options available for deployment during the next siege. If you let your populace fall to ruin, you may have to rely solely on your own devices.
Yeah, there's 3 nodes that surround each guild castle in the MMORPG, and those nodes can go up to village stage. When I was reading, I made a video on this a while back. So you spend 3 weeks of the month building up these nodes, developing these nodes, building up your defenses, preparing everything, getting everything ready for the siege to come. And then in that 4th week comes the siege where other guilds can gang up on you and some guilds can join you and defend your castle for rewards and such. So there is a node system.
There is.
Outside of the node system.
Yeah, these are independent nodes, which never go away. Like, other nodes can de-level to nothing and disappear off the map. These will always be tied to the castles.
Yeah, which gives you something to do between sieges, right? If there's only a 1 week window of doing sieges, what are you going to do for the next 3 weeks? Sit in your castle and go, man, it's pretty empty.
Well, you seriously have to prepare because you're going to, you know, what happened to your castle the first time, right? I mean, there's when you have somebody destroy things that you spent 3 weeks building, you're going to spend 3 weeks putting them back up, right? You can't just sit down and wait because, oh, we lost. You got to put everything back or they're just going to walk over you.
I'm sort of confused. I thought it was its own thing. Like, in other words, I thought castle nodes encompassed multiple nodes around them.
The castle has 3 mini little villages around it. Those 3 mini village nodes.
Right.
Do the castles fall into the purview of nearby metropolises? I can't recall. Or are they their own thing?
They're independent, and yet they still interact. Like taxes to the castle.
Right.
If there's a node that is a metropolis and a castle that overlaps it because
Is it a
there's
zone of influence?
the next thing that we talk about is every castle is different. They talk about each one being unique in terms of look, in terms of style, blah, blah, blah. The reason why I want to say every castle is different is every castle also controls 1/5 of the world.
Right.
Metropolises also control 1/5 of the world. That overlap one another.
Right. So a metropolis could theoretically be part of 2 castle nodes.
It
could. It could.
They're taxed to death.
Oh, man.
Okay.
But we have not seen the map. Until we see the map and we see the placement of the castles on the map, and then figure out where nodes could grow, we won't know until we see that. Whether you can have the situation where 2 metropolises both overlap a castle, 2 castles overlap a metropolis, there's zone of influences intertwined. We won't know until we see that.
I would imagine
Actually, we do. It would have to, based on how they've described it. I mean, regardless of what they said, if a smaller node envelops a larger node, then it would have to be in a position that 2 castles will overlap it. Like if you divide the thing into 5, basically, and nodes are everywhere between those.
Yeah, there's good chances.
Yeah.
very good chance. Very good chance.
That'll work. Also, I know the developers mentioned leaderboards and things like that, and statues in the world to represent world first and stuff. I want to see what guild manages to create the world record for consecutively owning a castle for the longest length of time.
That'd be a good one.
They're gonna try. Guilds are gonna try. Can they go 5 months? Can they go 8 months? Can they go 15 months? I want to see some of these hardcore guilds try and just defend a castle successfully every month after month for the world record length of time. Curious to see.
Would be fascinating.
Yeah.
All right.
Guild drama.
Other than let's go to the Everclass matters. Because that really means something more than what the other one did. Every class and profession has something to bring to the table during a siege. Whether it's a cabal of sorcerers working together to call and bind a behemoth from another plane, or a pair of artisans creating a new weapon of war to defend the walls, choice matters. Even in a siege. Again, the sense of play, counterplay is important to us, and deciding who to bring on a siege will depend on your resources, who you are fighting, and where you're doing the fighting. Maybe this month you want to try for the Dunzinkill Castle, but the server has been light on high-quality wood, and you won't be able to deploy as many siege weapons as you want. Do you bring summoners to try for another behemoth, or hope that you can maintain control? Or do you double down on subterfuge with your rangers and rogues and trusting them to get behind enemy lines and get those gates open? Okay.
And like, this is interesting. There's a lot here.
There is.
A lot of
Yeah, this was the one that I was talking about earlier. In that choice that they said here, do you bring more summoners to try for another behemoth and, hope they maintain control? If there's no cap, that sentence doesn't make any sense at all. Because why not just bring them anyway?
Bring them all. Bring them all.
Yeah, who cares
15
about
summoners and 100 artisans and just come on, let's go, everyone in.
Exactly. Bring all the artisans, bring all the siege equipment, and bring the summons. Like, to hell with that. Why do you have to choose unless there's a cap?
Well, it could also just be referring to the fact that Mrs. Crojack says Crojack can't come out and play with his friends tonight, and therefore you can't bring him. I mean, it could be something as a flowery way of just saying you can't pull together your full team.
Not enough summoners online. Not enough of this online.
I mean, and especially if this is something Guild Castle, you're not going to pug it. I wouldn't imagine you would pug it.
You could have pugs included. Pugs can pick their side and be like mercenaries, just join in the attacking or defending side and help out. But it's definitely going to be guild spearheaded.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It would have to be, because you wouldn't want you wouldn't put any pug or mercenary, if you really want to get in lore, in any point in which they have any type of control over the fate of the battle.
No decision making for you.
Meat shield.
Does anyone remember Braveheart with the Irish?
Yeah.
When they met halfway
My
across the field, shaking hands? Bloody Irish. That's just the thought you have. You don't know if
What
they're
was
going
that
to
about
betray
the
you.
Irish?
Something about Irish. I know you.
What was that about the Irish? Yeah.
Bloody Irish.
Bloody Irish.
Crojack is giving me the devil eyes right now, but that's fine because he's bloody Irish. Anyway.
Bloody Irish.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the idea of pugs. I always try to limit pugs anytime it comes to anything PvP related, depending on what kind of game you're playing. But in something where stakes are as high as this, would you really want to trust pugs to be in on this?
Yeah, going first.
Going first. As long as the first 100 don't die.
If it's open-ended and there's no cap, you just might need more numbers to breach that wall.
You have fodder. That's what the Irish were.
Push
him in.
I said it. Oh, I know. I know. I know my history.
Push him in.
Arrows cost money. The dead cost nothing. Yeah. More
Who was that
Braveheart.
from?
Braveheart.
Yeah, that was Braveheart. That's right.
Yeah.
Braveheart.
Use the Irish. Arrows are expensive. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yep.
I guess it's kind of neat. The one thing that I highlighted here is the fact that they said artisans. Are you going to need crafters for siege weaponry?
Yeah, they've mentioned that siege weaponry are built by crafters, as well as higher levels of siege weaponry and customizations of siege weaponry.
I do like that. I like that a lot.
Crafting matters.
It should.
Sure.
It annoyed me in games where you essentially go to an NPC merchant and buy your trebuchets and carry like 100 of them on you at a time.
Yeah.
I had so many trebuchets on my character in ESO, it was crazy. How did I walk?
Exactly.
Yeah, common sense.
Yeah, it'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, from everything I know of crafters, they affect siege weaponry efficiency, they affect caravan efficiency, they affect naval ship efficiency. Like, crafting in this game goes above and beyond just weapons and armor.
It's funny because Dark Age Camelot had the same thing. At least early on, there were no preformed siege weapons. You actually had a crafting skill called Siegecraft, and you had to have crafters making it.
Hell yeah.
Or else you had nothing.
Because it gives someone in the guild a role, and a role that they can feel special about and feel proud about. I am the guild's artisan when it comes to making trebuchets and siege weapons. I'm the guild's artisan when it comes to making naval ships and stuff. And they can specialize in that and feel important to their guild. And that's really cool. That's a kind of player interaction we want to see in this MMO, where players actually matter. And as they've said multiple times, choices matter.
Last thing I want to touch on this, and I thought this was funny. Again, is it flowery prose or does it mean something else? Hoping that summoners can maintain control. Can they be interrupted and then the thing they summon
Yes, please.
turns on you?
Please let me,
Yeah.
as a rogue, go stealth and mess up that demonic circle summoning crew. Let me go get them. That'd be great. And then all of a sudden, the demon is stopped being controlled and it starts wading through the armies that were actually attacking. Like, please let me do it.
I like the idea that if you go with the summoner route, that they could bind this thing from another plane, but if they lose control of it, it just goes berserk, killing everything in
nuts.
existence. Friends,
Whatever's
foes.
closest, just go.
Yeah.
I like that idea too. I
fun.
think that it's got to be strong. It's got to be a powerful thing then.
Yeah,
Like,
especially.
yeah.
Yeah. They mentioned Behemoth. It's huge. It's going to be easy to shoot at. Give it a lot of HP. Make this thing a tank, please.
Give it a lot.
Give it a lot.
I gotta say, please let us do that because I don't care if we lose the castle at this point.
No.
Everyone charge those summoners. I want to see that thing just rampaging everywhere.
There you go.
That would be great. Who gets
Give us-
the castle first?
Yes. So
Go ahead. I want you to talk about this one for a bit. We were talking about this a little bit.
yeah, I was talking about this a lot, man. So do you want me to read it first?
If you want to, or do you want me to? I mean, I could.
All right, I'll just read it.
You do it.
These castles are occupied when players arrive on Vera, and their current inhabitants will have to be removed before any player can claim them. Castles will be dangerous and high-level raid zones until they can be cleared, and the first group of players to do so will gain the castle as their reward. Now, this one... go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. You finish your thought.
So the thing that bugged me about it that I was talking about was the raid that they're talking about, to me, would have to be simple, right? And as somebody in our guild actually corrected and threw this idea that it was pretty much just a strength check, because when I was thinking raid, I have WoW in my mind. I have other games in my mind where they're complex things. You know, safety dance. You're thinking of mechanics, things that are extremely difficult that you guys have to overcome, and that's what I was thinking in my head when you said raid. But then I started thinking, I'm like, well, does that make sense? Because these are just one-time events that maximum, whoever hits these 5 castles those 5 times, they're the only ones that's ever going to get to experience that particular raid.
Yeah.
And then from then on, that doesn't exist. Because every change hands that happens is within players, and the monsters don't rehabitate. So, long story short, I think it's going to be a simple affair.
Yeah, like your words, a strength check. It's pretty much going to be get around or near-ish level cap, get to a certain level of power, and then clear out the little fodder, get to the relic room, and then in the relic room is probably a boss you have to defeat. And that's probably the extent of the raid, I would imagine. Some fodder, beat the boss. If you're powerful enough to beat the boss, grats. Now the castle's yours, and build that thing back up from scratch.
Yeah.
Now, do you need to get to level cap to do that? Or will they allow you to halfway to level cap, you're strong enough to pull this off? When do they want to introduce and start the cycle of guild sieging in the evolution of the game's first days?
That'll be interesting. That's a really good question.
Do they want guilds to get these things week 1? Or do they want guilds to get these things maybe a month and a half in once people are getting close to level cap and stuff? When do they want to start the guild siege cycle? That's a good question. Something I'd love to ask Steven.
Is it out of the realm of possibility
Day 1.
that every X amount of months, every 3 months, every 4 months, the NPCs take back over?
They just storm in and wipe out everyone in there.
So the raid, if the raid is going to have mechanics,
That would be interesting.
every 3 months it becomes an NPC raid again.
Is this what horde mode testing is for?
Well,
Or they try to take it back,
Yeah, they try to.
right? So it's just you raid the NPCs, and then they raid you.
all right, go ahead.
What if during the weeks before, you'd have to protect it like in horde mode, and if the guild who's trying to protect the castle loses during horde mode, it becomes the NPC raid again.
I wouldn't hate that.
I wouldn't
Yeah, I
hate
wouldn't
it.
hate that at all.
As you're leveling up your nodes in those 3 weeks of pre-war, yeah, once a week on the weekend, maybe, yeah, that's great. Gives you
Strength
something.
check.
Strength check.
It wouldn't
be too hard.
It
but
would
what if
also
okay?
probably split the timers up too, because if on week 3 it became a NPC raid again and was taken over, then it would start the whole 1 month again. So you would stagger your times more.
Yeah, because what if all 5 castles get sieged at the same time all the time?
I
every
have
month?
a good feeling
That won't happen.
Well, no, I have a feeling the first castles, it's gonna end up that way because a mega guild's gonna roll in with 1,000 players, goon squad, whatever, because there are some big guilds like that, who will roll in, power level up, and then take all 5 castles the same week.
I can see that.
Oh, I'm just imagining.
Like,
it's gonna
what if
happen.
the developers say, guys, there's a gate on Castle Siege deployment. You won't be able to attack castles for the first X amount of weeks of the game's life cycle, starting life cycle, just to prevent that from happening, where all of a sudden, 3 weeks in, really, really early, they just send 2,000 people at these things because they have those numbers and take it down by sheer numbers. The devs could say, guys, we're not opening up Castle Sieges for the first 2 months. They could do that.
Honestly,
I don't like it.
I don't know how I feel about that.
You're taking the choice away from the players. That feels bad.
I guess.
But you're preventing these idiot guilds from going 3,000 people.
Yeah. I don't know. Will the NPC raids be instance at the start? So you can't bring 3,000. Well, I mean, you could spread your players out, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Luckily, we'll have this ability to test this in Alpha 2 when the full
Yeah.
map is there and we can test these things.
I'm just concerned, like, you don't want to see that, especially not day one, but we'll say day one of Castle Sieges, that one guild took every single thing.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, you log in and it's like, oh, great.
No, but here's the problem. If you have a gated system where you say 3 months in, everything unlocks, the servers, the day everything unlocks, will get destroyed.
Yeah.
It's ruined. Everyone will log in. It'll just get wrecked.
No, I could definitely see it would. Yeah, it's going to however they're gonna do it. I feel like if your guild has, well, again, that won't stop the big guilds with the 3,000 people because you can't fit 3,000 people in one guild. They'll have guild 1, guild 2,
10.
guild 3, guild 4.
Yep.
Well,
It's 4 guilds in an alliance. So they have Alliance 1, Alliance 2, Alliance 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Talking about castle taxes and castles having direct power over nodes, but also have soft power across an entire region it belongs to. All nodes belonging to that region pay fealty to the castle in the form of taxes paid directly to the castle.
So it's not castles to Metropolis, it's Metropolis to castle.
Yep.
I thought it was the other way around. I thought a Metropolis would have more swagger, more sway in the world's economics and politics, but apparently if you're a guild owning a castle, Mr. Metropolis, you pay me. I've got the dragon.
No.
Well, then again, so do the mayors.
Game of Thrones, I guess. Aegon's High Hill. There was a reason for that.
I don't know. If I've got a military metropolis and I have my own dragon, I'm not paying no taxes to no little castle. I'm going to come burn you down.
Unless they have a bigger dragon.
Damn it. Bigger dragon
no,
diplomacy.
they didn't say dragon. They said they said flying mount. So maybe the castle gets a dragon and you get like a flying duck for owning the Metropolis.
Guys, it's a flying
really big duck.
Stuffertons. Flying Stuffertons.
A flying Stuffertons. made of flammable material. And you're like, this ain't good.
It's fire retardant cloth. Come on.
The stuffing. Have you ever seen a couch get lit on fire? They go up
Not.
quick.
Years of body sweat in that couch just catch fire.
That's right. That's right.
Gross.
And Monarch sets the rate and can use those proceeds to upgrade defenses, maintain the castle's direct nodes, or provide buffs and benefits to the citizen of that region as a magnanimous ruler that you are. Go ahead.
All that was fantastic, except for the first 5 letters. Steven, are there in-game controls to stop jerks from putting taxes at 99%? Please
I
let me
imagine
know
that's one of the things that they.
that there's got to be a cap.
I mean, I'm
Or-
sure there's a cap of. I'm sure there's a cap. Even other games that allowed you to set taxes. I'm thinking Terra was one that allowed you to set taxes. There was a max limit. Like you couldn't go above like 12% or something dumb like that.
Atlas 30%.
30%.
Oof. That's thick.
I mean, the U.S. government's 40, right? So I guess it makes
Right.
sense.
So it's not that far off.
Yeah, that's capital gains. That's what we need. We need capital gains tax everywhere, not normal tax. Anyway, yeah, no, that's there has to be a cap. The other thing I'm really kind of concerned about, this again goes back to playing BDO and seeing castle sieges and stuff. How much of the money? Because we know if you are a node, like a metropolis leader, you can't take that money out. But can a castle siege take money out? I feel like they would be able to.
Yeah, it's their
Yeah.
kill. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
Is there a limit to how much they can take out? Can
Empty
they
the coffers
empty the
before-
coffers before leaving?
Why not?
I
You can
mean-
do that in a logical real life scenario. Why not?
Fair
I don't
enough.
see why not at all.
Unless it does something like, once you lock into the battle, it locks whatever, treasury
That it
or
might
whatever
do, right?
resources.
The bank
yeah.
is locked as soon as the battle starts.
A prudent leader's going to empty that thing the days before it, right?
Well, yeah, they're going to start sifting off as soon as they can.
Right.
That'll be your job, Aggelos. I'll make you the money man.
Now, will the money have weight?
I hope
no.
so.
Yes, but
You
no.
have
But
to
yes,
think all
but
that
no. I don't want to.
through, right?
This
Oh.
caravan has X number of tons of gold stuffed into it. Crap,
You
there's
gotta-
not
you
enough
gotta think
room
about
to
all
get the
that,
second
yep.
caravan.
BDO had weight on their money, and then they switched it just recently, and it kind of killed me a little bit inside. I liked it when it had weight. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes, it-
I'm out grinding or something, and I'm going, "Wow, I'm full. That's all this silver."
Yep.
But
Yeah.
there was something about money having weight that I liked.
Yeah, I like it too. If usually sometimes what they want to do is if you're carrying it, it has, or it's in an inventory of some type,
And-
has a little less weight. But if it's on you, it's full weight, right?
Pretty sure I heard Steven say at one point in time that money has weight.
It might. It was gold. It might.
I'm gonna have to
right?
go back and listen to one of our
You're gonna have
early
to and what effect would weight have in this one, right?
everything.
Funny part is less about weight, but more about inventory space. How many coins can I put in one inventory slot in my inventory?
Yeah. What's the
Logically
how's it
speaking,
stack?
volume
Good question.
of my backpack?
One at a point. one
Yeah.
one per stack.
One.
I see chat saying no. He said it did not. I'm almost positive he said it did, but I'll have to look it up because I'm not sure. Because I know I asked the question of weight and money at one
Money
point.
When
with
you
weight.
find the caravan that's going slower,
Yeah, right.
you get more money.
In the conversation of castle siege and caravan sieging and money having weight, it does add an interesting mechanic to the combat, kind of like in Sea of Thieves. People are like, why can I only carry one chest at a time? Why can I only carry one skull at a time when I can have one in each hand? Well, because you have that fear of being raided during delivery. Delivery takes time. That adds tension.
Oh.
So I see how you can have that in this game with money
Oh, yeah.
having weight and volume and having to transport it and the risk of doing so. I can see that the gameplay involved in that, but it still feels bad. It's tough.
It is interesting when you talk about that. When the Castle Siege, the instance ones, there's no going back to your place. But when you siege a metropolis and you have to go back, right? You don't just pop back. Can you be sieged on the way back? Right. So you're gonna take Metropolis, but we're gonna be all waiting in the forest until you're done and you're almost out of weapon, and then we're gonna attack.
And then a counter,
Right. And then we're gonna counterattack you.
And I just did find it. May 26, 2017 live stream. They said currency does not have weight. So.
Well, it's credit then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a credit letter.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool. I mean, I could have swore otherwise, but I found the reference. So
There's interesting gameplay to doing so, but there's also frustrating gameplay to do so, and you have to balance them and weigh them and go, which way we're gonna do this.
sure. I mean, it makes sense.
Well, think about those times when eventually we get this moving and the MMO's out, and you're gonna have double X weekends or double X events, right? If your coins have weight, they may have doubled your weight when you come back, right? So, I mean, in Alice, we had to take on one of those weekends. We take 2 or 3 bears with us because we had too much coin to bring back with us by ourselves. So you have to watch for that when it comes to weight. But if we don't have it, that's okay.
The scarcity of fast travel, I like the sound of that. That sounds fun.
Got to move on here because guess what? We're not going to have any time to do anything other than this.
Yeah.
We're on number 3 of 10.
Yeah, no, this is about it. Capturing points. As siege rages on, there's a sense of territory and progression throughout the battle. These are represented through control points, and each side starts with a few already owned. I'm hoping that's referring to APOC and not the MMORPG, or else they're gonna it's all gonna be static.
I think they are. I mean, this is Castle Sieges in the MMORPG.
Yeah, a physical castle doesn't change every month. It's the same layout.
No, but you would think you'd be able to siege it from different directions.
The attackers, yes, but the defenders, their capture points should never move month to month because the castle doesn't change month to month.
Yeah, but again, that goes back to how the defending side, is it just running out of time? Is that literally,
Good question.
That's something we don't know. They say others are present but neutral as control points are captured by one side, and that side gains a temporary buff to increase their spawn rate. I think they're talking about APOC and not the MMO.
I don't think
This is the MMO.
Unless this is
MMO.
instanced.
I think we've just gotten a lot of answers to our questions here.
Or more questions.
Does the attacking side have graveyards near the castle that are only active during castle sieges to enable the respawns that they do in APOC in the MMO? I wonder.
But what? Well, I guess you would be flagged for the comment. I was gonna say, what's going to prevent someone from
You get
walking by, dying, and then picking up one of those respawns?
Stephen did say, for example, with the caravan system, if you approach a caravan as a neutral party, you're given a UI element that says, do you want to help defend the caravan, attack the caravan, or ignore the caravan? We talked about that previously. There could be a similar system when it comes to an active event of a castle siege. Big old silence there. Just thick silence there as Aggelos is just shaking his head.
I don't know. I have a feeling that they are going to heavily instance this.
They might
I think as they work through this, they're starting to make decisions they had different than they had before when they hadn't been building a whole lot. I think they're coming into some realities they're going to have to follow.
Like they had the dream of one world, one open thing, everything's beautiful, hunky-dory, rainbows and unicorns, but the realities of the server architecture is going, you know what? We might be
Now that they start to actually do it, they're going to have to make some adjustments. I think.
Let's wait and see.
All right. I don't know. We'll see. And I like that the image right now in the background before it switches is actually the reliquary. And that's actually where we get the name for this one, the Shattering, because there's actually a picture coming up here in a second when talking about destruction and siege weaponry, about it shattering as it's being, I guess, as you're channeling, because when you're trying to capture one of these things, it starts to unravel and shatter.
Which is cool.
It is pretty neat. I don't know. I I still heavily lead towards the whole instant. This thing is going to be instance. The castle will be president in the world, but when the castle siege is going on, you enter an instance zone of the castle.
Yeah.
Because
Might
how
be.
else, like,
I
just to
think
keep
so.
the servers, the rest of the server from being bogged down by what's happening over there, like,
Or to prevent the people fighting from being bogged down by a bunch of neutral players running in with 3,000 neutral
Yeah.
players and just sitting in the center.
Just so nothing happens.
Never mind sitting. Like you can do a whole bunch of stuff to increase lag.
Oh yeah, everyone AOE everything you
Everyone
got.
play your instruments.
that removes the whole people joining into the battle halfway through thing, and that's kind of cool. But you're right, it can be abused so brutally.
And if
If you're not
something
careful.
can be abused, it will be
It will.
abused.
Oh yeah.
And we're talking. All right, I have to address this. No, we're not. It's not that. If it's that much, then it's instance. We're talking about whether or not, if it's open world, what's to prevent 3,000 people from actually jumping into the world? You can't say it's 500 v 500 if it's not instance, because any single person on that server can walk up and go into that castle. Whether or not they're engaging in it doesn't mean they can't stand there and jump on top of you.
Now, without instancing, you can't control it. You're right. And since these things are done every 4 weeks, the entire server knows which castle is about to go down.
Oh yeah.
Right? In advance. But however, there is no fast travel or limited fast travel, so it's hard to get there. But if you have an advance warning, you just get there a couple days in advance and hang out. You can have a lot of people at a castle siege.
All right, I kind of want to address the hard to get there, because I don't think it's going to be that hard to get there.
Yeah, we
I don't
don't know
think
what
it will
travel
either.
time is like.
They've described how big the world map is, and it's not as big as I thought it was.
No. Even if it's half an hour, 20 minutes to go from one
Yeah.
far end to the other, or
Yeah, that's honestly that's nothing.
No, 30 minutes,
maps.
whatever, you could do that before
You have to travel 3 hours to get to somewhere else. So that's 20 minutes is no big deal.
Yeah, this
If
isn't.
it's larger than that, I will bet they're going to also change their mind on fast travel.
Well, they might, and that's where scientific
Bypass.
nodes come in, because scientific nodes will allow fast travel between those points. But yeah, this map isn't the Chronicles of Illyria map, which literally takes like 8 hours, according to their devs, to run from top to bottom. Don't look at me.
Yeah.
That's what they
I
say.
don't know if I love that or am horrified by that. I'm not sure which side of the spectrum I'm on.
I mean,
That's amazing, but also scary.
Well, it's huge, right? I mean, think about it. Again, I don't want to keep bringing up Atlas, but it was the same way. If you start from the top server, A1, and you travel just down to A15, it takes you 8 hours.
yeah.
Instead of sailing on a galleon, it takes you 8 hours. On a raft, it'll take you 16, right? So you have to plan these things out. We have a raid, well, before they do the wipe, we have a raid of the Kraken tomorrow night. And we have to get to the staging area prior to that, right? And we're 3 servers away. I have to plan at least an hour of sailing to get over there to stage for the event.
And they mentioned, based on the size of the map, that it's about the size of BDO prior to all of their big expansions like Drungheim and Kama Sylvia. You can get from one side of the map to the other in about 30 minutes on an average sized horse. Walking might be a little different. I don't think we're going to see the amount of distance that you would in Atlas or what Chronicles of Illyria is aiming for. If it was that size, yeah, you're right. But 30 minutes isn't. You can get there in 30 minutes almost anywhere.
Which,
So-
by the way, I'm wondering how they're going to pull this off. Every single other game, like look at BDO for example, right? Let's say it's that. Notice how they divided their map up into different areas of where different levels exist, right? If if this game takes as long as it is to level, or whatever, that's neither here nor there. But how are mobs going to be spread out in the world?
Mob
this
levels
time,
based
because-
off of how far you get from the road and the level of the node nearby.
No,
The
fair
higher-
enough. Fair enough. Level of the road. No
I think he's talking about
nearby.
mob density.
Exactly.
Mob
That's what
density?
I'm talking. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, if depending on how it is structured, I'm really curious of how it's going to work with nodes, because let's just say you have one area over here that these mobs are located that you can level off of, right? That immediately takes you out of your node, right? Unless you have each node or each area supporting every single level kind of range up to the top. Otherwise, you have an organic list of players that will automatically be leveling up other nodes because they need to go there for
The low-level characters need to be near the villages and not near the metropolises.
okay.
Sorry, I'm.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be
misunderstood
interesting.
what you meant.
Makes sense. Yes.
Sorry, that was a tangent, but it just came to mind.
No. I mean, as more of this is becoming understandable and we're seeing the size of the world map that they're planning on, which is bigger than some, but it's not as big as was originally thought.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I thought the AOC map was going to be more akin to HAL Chronicles of Illyria, where if you're in the north part, good luck getting anywhere because it's hours of walking. Or
Right.
Atlas, because we won't use Chronicles of Illyria because I know some people are like, it's still in development. That's just what they're saying. But Atlas is a good example of a game that actually legitly has this size of a map that it would take a long time to get. It's unreasonable that if Castle Siege, Castle 1 is going under attack, that you can get your friends there in time. More often than not, unless you plan it ahead of time. Castle Siege lasts, say, 90 minutes, and in Storm's analogy, he's on server 1, and the castle going down's A5. Can you even get there in the time that the siege starts if you didn't plan ahead of time? A1 to A5 in 90 minutes? It'd be close.
Yeah, you gotta think about that. You got to think about all that, right? And
Well, that's
why
what
the
I'm
size of the map
asking.
makes importance. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the way originally my thought process was. I don't think that's the case if it... I mean, I'm really enjoying BDO, and the world feels large when you're running around it.
Yeah.
But when you really think about it, I can get from Portaferia over to, I know it's not all the way, but Altanova on my horse in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's enough for a sandwich. Your game would still be going on.
Right.
That's different. And I see someone mention Life is Feudal where, it takes hours to go between servers. We're seeing more of that in these other games. I don't think Ashes is going to offer that level of preparation.
It's complexity. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a complexity to all that, right? It really is.
Yeah, and that makes a huge difference. The size of the world. Once I realized that it wasn't that big as I thought, especially when the BDO comparison was brought up, that's when I realized that it's more compressed than I thought. In my mind, when I heard about it before, it was so large that you could literally level in an area and never come across anyone from node 4 over there, way on the other half of the world, because you have almost your own organic system kind of in. I just don't see that with the size that I'm thinking it is. Maybe I could be completely wrong, but
No, I don't think you're wrong on that one. We're seeing that now when you look at BDO, when you look at the major cities and different guilds own them, it's really not that far between all of them.
right.
In reality, you could get to any one of them within a reasonable amount of time. The distance is not far enough that it wouldn't even be one. Honestly, depending on if I had, tacos that night, that's not even enough for one bathroom break, to get between point A, point B.
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
Sorry, I had to make that joke. Get it? No? All right. Speaking of destruction,
Really? Really?
I'm shamed.
That's your
You
segue?
had to go there. Here you go.
I'm shamed. This is actually something that's kind of neat if they're able to pull this off in an interesting fashion. They've been working on their destruction mechanic to be able to destroy castles and everything in a satisfying way. But they make mention about you don't need to take down an entire wall if you can blow a big enough hole. Is their destruction system going to be that in depth? ESO didn't have that. ESO, they had preset form sections that had repaired state, damaged state, broken state.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sections. You couldn't kind of pick and choose. I mean, you
think
could.
that's
You
what
could
they're
aim
gonna
for a
have.
specific section, but it wouldn't break exactly where you hit it. If it did
This-
enough damage, it would break that wall.
I think that's what they're
Further-
going to do.
I think they're going to have to.
Just the more I hear, the more I think instanced is the way to go, just for stability.
Yeah.
Like having individual segments of walls be broken based off of where you impacted them multiple times across multiple attacking siege engines. There's a lot.
That could bring the entire
Collision attached to
server
players.
down.
Like seriously,
Yeah.
you might have to instance it just to give people the experience that they're talking about here at an acceptable frame rate.
Yeah, it's going to be as they're coming toward reality. These things will start to fish out, and we'll start to see what they're really going to have to do.
Maybe they try it non-instance at first during alpha.
They,
too.
they
Give it a
might,
shot.
right? They might try it, see if it works. God willing, maybe will. But what if it doesn't? They're going to have to fall back on how to do it.
Just like if the hybrid combat system doesn't work, they need to make the decision now that if it doesn't work, we should fall back to tab targeting.
They need to have a parallel plan.
Yes.
If something goes wrong with what they're trying to do. When you do
Yes.
something new like that, you have to be prepared for a fallback.
And I notice I see people talking about fixed position for siege placement. I can see that from a defensive side, but when they talked about siege weaponry later on, I don't think they could do that from a defensive side. And if they do, that's just disappointing. ESO
Defensive-
that's 5 years old lets you put siege weapons anywhere you want. DOAC that's 20
Lifetime ago?
years old lets you put it anywhere you want.
Yeah,
I do not like fixed positions when it comes to siege equipment.
me either.
I agree.
That's I don't know. They talk about siege equipment and crafters being able to bring their own schematics to lay down. And if they could do that, I hope. But if there's hook points everywhere, that's just disappointing. I don't know. I mean, from the castle's defender perspective, they talk about being able to deploy defensive weapons and turrets based on how well they maintained or defended their nodes, the previous nodes. That makes sense. But the people assaulting should be able to bring whatever they could bring.
Yeah, and put it wherever they want, not in point A, point B, or point C.
And Dawazar says, if the world was split into multiple square servers, wouldn't the load be less on the server? It would. It would. You are right. It would. If this square by itself, you're right. But that still doesn't prevent the 3,000 people from sitting on the
That's the
node, even
problem.
if they're not part of it. I mean, there's logical ways of blocking. Even World of Warcraft, even though it's open, I don't know if you realized it, it wasn't always open. They actually had invisible walls that you would jump between servers.
Yeah.
Just the load balance. And I fully expect them to have a similar situation that when you cross some invisible barrier, you are now
gonna
in
have to.
a new zone.
As you move around the map,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah, that you're passed off. But
Yeah.
anyway. All right, guys, I think that's the end of this incredibly long show, and we didn't even get a chance to talk about any of the other stuff.
There's some good stuff there too.
There
Yeah.
is. So I'm going to hold on to it because even though it's older stuff, being a discussion show that we are, we can go back into some of the older things and talk about them because they do have some good detail,
Very relevant.
very relevant going forward. So we'll be bringing those forward to you guys next week. But anyway, I want to thank all of my amazing co-hosts for joining us this week once again. We've got Stormzord Digital Piper Studios. Check out his work that he's doing over there. We've got Alpha Soul. You've probably seen his Ashes news videos. Maybe not so much recently, but maybe a lot more in the coming weeks. And of course, Crowjack. Videos, streaming, cutting down forests and fighting cannibals
In Canada.
in Canada.
It actually is set in what is probably Canada. One of the developers.
It is. Check him out. Everywhere, Crowjack. And of course, you can follow me and everything we do over here at Dungeon Crawler Network at dungeoncrawlernetwork.com. There you'll find links to all of our social media, including Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Be sure to check out our Patreon program, patreon.com/dungeoncrawlernetwork, if you want to help support the show. You could also do that by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes so people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words. Sometimes they matter. Thanks again for joining us on this episode of From the Ashes, and we'll see you next time. See you later.